welcome to one more episode of Drug Discovery with IronCure. I'm Subhan Khurana. I'm the founder of IronCure, and with us today is Dr. Saba Munawar. Dr. Saba Munawar is an excellent computational biologist, biotechnologist, drug discovery specialist who not just works on computation, but also does wet work on her channels, has done patch clamp recordings, and she has been collaborating with IronCure, and it has been a wonderful experience working with her. Sabah is originally from Pakistan but has done a lot of her research work in Australia. I'll let Sabah introduce herself about her academic background.
Hello everyone, I am Sabah Munawar. I have done my PhD from National University of Sciences and Technology from Pakistan, and I did my split research from University of New South Wales and did all my research work at Victor Cheng Cardiac Research Institute under the mentorship of Professor James Vandenberg, an internationally renowned scientist who work on heart toxicology.
Wonderful to have you here, Sabah. So, Sabah, one of the questions let me ask you, why do we worry about herb channels in drug toxicology? Because as our audience know well that every drug needs to be not toxic, so we need to check for its toxicity. And one of the first things we do is we check for herb channel toxicity. So, I would like to ask you, why herb channels?
Okay. The toxicity of drug is very important because whenever we take some drug, it has some side effects, and one of the main reasons that it affects our heart. So human either agogo related gene or HERC ion channels are responsible for the cardiotoxicity, and it has promiscuous binding cavity that can accommodate structurally and functionally diverse compounds in its binding core. Almost 60% of the drugs are still in the market that can interact with the HERC channel. And after interacting or blocking with these channels, they can prolong the QT interval prolongation. And if they doesn't dissociate within a time limit, it can may fatal, or it can may cause sudden cardiac death of the patient. So this is very important. And in 2005, FDA and other drug regulatory authorities has passed a rule that all drugs must be tested against heart liability before going to the clinical trials. So it is very important to go for toxicity profiling of a drug first.
Wonderful. Clarifies why we need to really measure our channels. So how do you actually go about predicting something could be binding with her channel, something could be toxic computationally? What are the ways?
Okay, one thing I want like to mention that experimental assays to test HERC liability are very expensive. For example, we use the gold standard patch clamp assay to test the HERC liability. And this experiment and the equipment cost and laboratory setup is very costly, and we need the expert technical skills to perform this technique. So in my PhD, I have developed a experimentally validated in silico pipeline in which I have developed various ligand-based and structure-based models. And based upon these models, I have visually screened various online databases like Campbell, Hit to Lead databases, and various online databases that have millions of compounds. And I have screened the compounds that can be HERC liable and that can block the HERC binding pore. And I have tested these compounds after make a short list of these hits, and I have tested these compounds using patch clamp experiment, and I have found that my experimentally validated in silico pipeline has ability to predict a compound that either it is the HERC liable or not, it can block the HERC or not, or how much its IC50 would be. And using this pipeline, we can detect all of these features in silico. So I think it's a great and wonderful effort that we can, without going to the wet lab, we can predict a compound, either it is a HERC blocker or not.
Wonderful. That's a great answer. You had also mentioned batch clamp. That's something common each year. I did it for my PhD, and when I came to India as a faculty in a place in Lucknow, CKI, we got a patch clamp equipment. It came like few months before some of my evaluation was happening in this there for a year. and I still could not get a puller in time, and I could not get electrodes and other things. So it was a nightmare. So by the time I had left my 3-year thing, the instrument and the setup was not in order. One day it rained, there was water, and the guy who was sort of the right-hand man of the director was busy getting alcohol and kebabs for the director instead of helping set up the patch clamp. So there were interesting things. So I could not really do much of the patch clamp recordings in India, but I had 6 years of fun with patch clamp. So you also have done some interesting patch clamp work. So what is the role of patch clamp in terms of measuring Herd channel activity? How does patch clamp help instead of just doing some Western or some radio label binding studies? Can you explain that?
I'm sorry, Dr. Khurana, just repeat the last, your
Yeah,
last.
so how does patch clamp help in finding Herd channel activity?
Yeah.
Can you explain that?
Okay, how I find Herd channel activity using the patch clamp setup.
Yeah.
Okay, using the patch clamp, we measure the ion current, as you already know, and you have also already used that. So what I do is I visually screen the large databases with my models and screen shortlist some hits. And then I performed the wholesale patch clamp on these hits. These hits was obtained with the hit to lead database. And by making their various solutions and concentrations, I have checked them with on Chinese hamster and ovary cell lines. And I have seen that how much they block or how much they inhibit the Herd current and how much they block the potassium ions flow out of these cells. So my predicted and experimental values have just 1 log unit difference, and it was less than 1 log unit difference.
Mm-hmm.
So while working in the experimental lab and by predicting the values, the 1 log unit difference is acceptable. So it was a very great finding for us that we have in silico developed a PEP pipeline that can detect within seconds a compound that it can predict, it can block the Herd or not. And while going into the lab, it takes me 2 to 3 weeks for a compound to test that whether it will block or not.
Oh, wonderful. So that's really great. It's great to have you here. I would just like to tell our audience, Dr. Sabha has been working with us, doing a lot of blocking and other computational work related to SARS-CoV-2. So we have a global alliance working with IonCure, trying to fight this pandemic of COVID-19, and we're very thankful to have Sabha with us. Thank you, Dr. Please visit our website, www.ioncurerx.com. We are always open to citizen science, and we are not working for COVID-19 for profits. We will never be a publicly traded company. We intend to beat this pandemic, and our agenda is essentially to do good for humanity with 2 particular issues which are really close to us. One are epilepsy-related medicines, and other are COVID-related medicines, where we intend to put in all the money in drug discovery and building the company rather than taking home any profits. So this is our effort, and we are very thankful to having people like Dr. Sabha Munawar with us, and a whole lot of people, hundreds of people. And we want to see growing support from you. Thank you for listening to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khurana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So